In this video we are going to delve a little further into visual web parts for SharePoint 2010. Now, a visual web part is really an ASCX user control that is hosted inside a standard ASP.NET web part. And in previous versions of SharePoint, developers could create this type of object by creating their web part class as a standard ASP.NET web part and calling the page.loadControl method and passing in the path to an ASCX user control. Now, that was all very well and it was a supported development technique, but it did raise issues and concerns, especially around packaging and deployment. Put simply, it wasn't very simple to deploy this type of base class plus user control as a single entity. Now, with Visual Studio 2010, all of the deployment and packaging problems have gone away. There's a new type of project item called the visual web part, and the plumbing is literally provided for you, so it allows you to concentrate on designing the user interface graphically and of course adding your business logic and code. Visual Studio will package all of that up for you, the base class and the user control, and deploy it to SharePoint. So let's take a look at a very simple example, but one that goes a bit further than our previous video. What we have is a tree view control where we have simply added that to our design surface, and we can see the split view here. We have the design surface at the bottom and the markup at the top. We also have our code behind file, so let's go through that line by line. The first thing we do is instantiate an SP web object, so we are going to start interacting with SharePoint, and then we start building the tree nodes. The first thing we do is set this web, our SP web object, equal to spcontext.current.web, and that returns a reference to the website where our web part will currently be running. Then we start extracting properties of that, such as its title and its URL, and we can use those when we build a new tree node. So that's a display text and the navigator URL. Then we can add the node to the tree and then start iterating through the lists collection of the web, and for each of those SP list type objects we can add an additional tree node underneath the web's parent. Then we can also iterate through the subwebs as well and perform very similar actions in order to build an entire structure. So the addWebs function is just a helper function, and that adds additional tree nodes. So our first screenshot has a line of code that called addWebs for each subweb in our parent site. So we will do very similar operations, which is to extract the title and the URL and then iterate through the lists collection of each subweb and build up our entire structure that way.